So let's get right into it. We all know AI is getting ridiculously smart, right? But what if I told you it's now learning to think less like a computer and more like a human researcher? Today, we're breaking down a brand new framework from Google Cloud AI Research that totally flips the script on how AI tackles those big, complex research projects. But that brings up a really interesting question. We can ask an LLM to write a poem or some code, and boom, it does it. It's brilliant. But the moment you ask it for a deep 20-page research paper, it just kind of hits a plateau. So what's going on there? Why the struggle?
Well, the big problem, and this paper really nails it, is that current AI agents are just too linear. They follow a rigid script, plan, then research, then write. But think about it, that's not how people do their best work at all. Real, groundbreaking research is messy. It's anything but a straight line.
And that, right there, is the key insight. The folks at Google actually looked at how we, as humans, write, and then they built an AI that mimics that whole process. This sometimes chaotic, but way more effective journey to a great paper. I mean, this process right here, we all know this feeling. A perfect paper almost never pops out on the first go. We start with a plan, sure. Then we write a rough, maybe even terrible first draft. And then comes the magic. That cycle of revising and researching, going back to find new info to fill the gaps, to make our arguments stronger. That back and forth loop is where the quality really comes from. And this brings us to the core idea of the paper. It's called test time diffusion, or TTD. Just think of that messy first draft we talked about as a noisy signal. The AI's whole job is to denoise it, to clean it up bit by folding in new research until it becomes this polished, amazing final report. It's a really cool way to think about the creative process, isn't it?
Okay, so how in the world did they actually build this thing, this diffusion engine? Let's break down the full system. They call it the Test Time Diffusion Deep Researcher, or TTDR for short. First up, you have to understand the foundation. This is what they call the backbone agent. And really, this is the classic linear workflow. A user asks a question, and that kicks off stage one. The AI makes a research plan, basically an outline. Stage two takes that outline and does a bunch of searches to grab information. And finally, stage three pulls all that info together and writes the report. It's logical, yeah, but it's super rigid. And as you're about to see, it's just the starting point. Now, here's where it gets really clever. This is the first secret weapon, component-wise self-evolution. Basically, this process makes every single part of the agent smarter before the main task even begins. So instead of the planner just making one plan, it generates a few. It evaluates them and picks the best one. The same thing happens with the searcher and the part that generates answers. They all create multiple options, get feedback, and evolve to produce the best possible output. It's like every member of your research team is running drills to perfect their own job.
And here it is, the whole shebang. This is the complete TTDR framework. Let's walk through it. A query comes in and it kicks off two things at once. A research plan gets made and a noisy, super rough initial draft is created. This draft is the heart of the whole system. Now we enter the denoising loop. The system looks at the draft to figure out what it needs to search for next. The answers it finds are then used to revise and improve, or denoise that draft. And that better draft now guides the next round of searches. You see? It's this powerful feedback cycle where the report is constantly getting sharper and more focused. This is that diffusion process in action.
Okay, so the theory is awesome, it sounds great, but does it actually perform any better? Let's get to the proof and see how this new kid on the block stacks up against the competition.
This picture says it all, really. On the left, you've got the old way. You research the intro, then you go research section 1, then section 2, all separately. The big danger there is you end up with a choppy report that loses the main plot. But on the right, you have TTDR. Because every single search and every revision is all about improving that one central evolving draft, the whole thing stays coherent. Nothing gets lost in translation.
And wow, the results really do speak for themselves. In a direct head-to-head matchup against OpenAI's deep research agent, human evaluators preferred the report from TTDDR a staggering 69.1% of the time. This isn't just a tiny step up, it's a huge leap forward in quality.
And it's not just about what people preferred. When human evaluators scored the reports on specific things like how helpful or comprehensive they were, TTDR's reports consistently came out on top, beating out major players like OpenAI's agent and Grok. This shows it's not just a subjective feeling. It's producing research that is quantifiably better.
All right, let's bring it all home. Let's tie this all together and look at the big picture. What are the key takeaways from this really fascinating research?
So, let's recap the big ideas. The real breakthrough here is copying the messy, iterative way that humans actually write. The whole system starts with a noisy draft and then denoises it with fresh information in a constant feedback loop. That draft-centric design is the secret sauce for keeping the report coherent. Meanwhile, that self-evolution process makes sure every part of the machine is at the top of its game. And the results? Well, it flat out outperforms the others. And just for a balanced view, the authors are upfront that right now it's focused on search, but they're eyeing things like live web browsing and coding for the future.
And this all leaves us with a pretty wild question to chew on. We've just seen an AI that doesn't just spit back facts, but actually mimics the very process of human thinking and creating. If AI can master our methods for discovery, what on earth does that unlock next?
All right, now for your research assignment. I need you to subscribe to VibeDoc and then share your thoughts on all this down in the comments. And don't worry, there's no noisy first draft required. It's just one click. We'll catch you in the next one.